So today's an easy one. This one's just discussing the benefits of using positive feedback and reinforcement versus using negative feedback and reinforcement when trying to cement habits or skills that you've taught to your team members or reps. So the most important concept you need to understand about executing something consistently is that somebody's desire to do something is in direct correlation with how they feel doing it or how they feel about doing it. For instance, if I feel really good about doing something and I feel confident doing something and I like doing something, I'm probably going to do it a lot more than if I don't feel confident doing it, I don't enjoy doing it, or feel like I'm good at doing it. So really understanding the tiny little change that you can make to drastically increase how much your team members or reps or people you're teaching want to use the skill that you've taught will be a skill that you can implement to make sure that your teams perform more consistently. So if you want to think about it, if I receive negative feedback, so an example of negative feedback is, hey, don't do that thing, or hey, you didn't do that thing correctly, how does that make me feel? And I understand the idea of we all want to be someone who's good at taking feedback, but really just let's isolate this. If someone's given me feedback in that way, I'm naturally inclined to get down on myself or feel like I'm not doing a good job. Guess what chemical that doesn't give me? Dopamine. Guess what chemical is responsible for my motivation and confidence? Dopamine. So you want to make sure that when you're giving feedback, you're giving dopamine. So it's a really easy change, but understanding the value of giving positive feedback instead of negative. So saying something like, hey, you did really well here, that's great. So that's one example of positive feedback, is just congratulating someone for doing it well. That's dopamine, that cements the habit. But there's also one last little trick you can use for the second type of positive feedback, which is trying to correct something with a positive frame. And that is as simple as using something I call flipping criticism. And it goes like this. It's very, very simple. If you feel the compulsion to give someone criticism, instead of giving them the negative thing, flip it so that you're saying something positive to do instead. And generally, that sentence will start with 3 words. This time, try blank. So this time, try doing X, Y, Z. This time, try implementing this. So rather than saying, no, you didn't do it properly, you suck, you loser, you're saying, hey, you're doing great, now let's add to that and make you even better. That's the idea of flipping criticism, so that you're taking a negative and turning it into a positive, which makes your rep or team member more confident and more inclined to execute on that skill. Let's look at some examples. So the first example is, let's say you're doing sales, or you're working with a sales rep, and you listen into their call or how they interact with a customer, and they're getting walked all over. So the customer is grabbing the conversation and running away with it. Well, generally in sales, we don't want that. So instead of saying, stop letting the customer take control of the conversation, or you're not controlling the conversation well enough, that's not going to give anyone any level of confidence or momentum. All you have to do is flip it and tell them the thing they should be doing. So what solves the problem of not controlling a conversation? Reaction time. So when you ask somebody a question and they answer it, you then use a buzzword like awesome, and then you take the talking stick back. So instead of saying, hey, you're not controlling the conversation, instead I'm going to say, hey, awesome, this time try using a little bit better reaction time. So instead of letting that silence just be dead, jump in with a buzzword. Do you want to try it with me? And you can even do a little why, what, how, tell, show, watch if you've got the time. Another example, let's say someone's doing a presentation. You could easily say, don't be monotone if they're being boring and talking like this and not using their tonality or inflection or emphasizing their buzzwords. Well, yeah, that would bore me too. And that's the right advice, but it's packaged the wrong way. So instead, we use our magic 3 words. Hey, that's great. This time, try emphasizing your buzzwords a bit more. So say your important words or your numbers slower and louder than your other words. So rather than saying 1 in 3 people struggle with their happiness with their marketing agency, you can say 1 in 3 people really struggle with their happiness when it comes to their marketing agency. So I'm saying the important things slower and louder than I say the other things. Well, giving that positive feedback is way more likely to A, be executed, and B, build the confidence of your team member. Or let's say we're fighting. Let's say we're boxing and we're sparring, and somebody is that you're trying to teach to become a good fighter is getting sloppy and winging punches and their hands are coming off their face. Well, if you know anything about fighting, when your hands come off your face, you've got no defense and they hit you on your off switch, good night. So instead of saying, don't drop your hands, you got them focused on the negative, say, hey, your power's looking great, but make sure when you're throwing that you keep the other hand up and your shoulder high so that your chin's protected. You've given them something positive to think about instead of a negative. So the idea of flipping criticism means that being able to deliver something in a positive way rather than a negative way makes your people want to do the things you're teaching more. If they feel like they're doing a good job, they're more likely to execute. What is fun gets done.